Good morning, everyone. In approximately 2 hours, we'll have the first annual Apple Cup, with the boats out there in preparation for this race, taking some of their final tune-up. We'll see Bill Muncy and Turfway Crew. This is the pit area from which the boats will be operating. And, of course, during the time of the afternoon as the various heats are run, we'll have lots of activity from the South Plain pit. I have a couple of people with me who are pretty well known, I imagine, to most of the people in this area. The boy on my left is Tom Dragon. Tommy, what have you been doing since you went down there to Portland?
Well, I've been working pretty hard, fishing these houses for you.
They tell me that you've become a regular, what can I call you, watcher. Well, I was going to say, frankly, for a man who's trying to sell hydroplane racing down in that area.
Very much so, and there's a lot of interest, too.
What do you like about this race? Do you think it's going to be a pretty good potential?
The water looks beautiful. It really does. It looks like a good body of water.
And 1,000 feet above sea level over what they have at Lake Washington makes it a little bit different, too, I think. Well, of course, you'll find Caddy and all the rest of them out here and all your old friends. I think you'll have a good time talking to them.
It was a real pleasure for about a half hour just a while ago, too, talking to them.
On my right, I have a man who, of course, has been with King for how many years now? Is it Chuck Herring?
Well, I shouldn't say, but I think I'm going on 6, you know.
And for 6 years, you, too, have had a lot of opportunity to work in the pit area and to talk with the truck drivers and things of that nature. And I think it's pretty
Not a Detroiter in the bunch this time.
No, that's true, but we will have Detroit boats a little later on when we have another type of show. How does the pit area look to you, Chuck?
Well, this is a fascinating spot, Bill, and there's one thing that we don't have in Lake Washington. This lake came up, Tom, about yesterday, I guess, and they had to bulldoze out here in several spots to keep the water from physically coming up into the pit area. The thing that Ed, you can't fight with it. The thing that impresses me most of all, Bill, I think, is to just get out here on the highway, as I did just now, and see the tremendous number of cars that are streaming in. So many of them with A license plates at Seattle, Cape County, and from all over the state and from Oregon. It's amazing. Chelan, the city of Chelan has never known anything like this since it was first organized years and years ago. You know, the town is really jumping.
Speaking of the city of Chelan, I noticed over here to my left a couple of gentlemen that I'd like to introduce to our viewing public and introduce to you two. This is Zeke Cannon, Tom Dragon, and Jim Forney. This is the general chairman. This is Chuck Herring, you know, and Tom Dragon. Gentlemen, come on in here. We're going to talk a little bit about this all-important event that you're putting on here today, known as the first annual Apple Cup. Jim, you're the general chairman. Tell me a few brief words, if you will. How did this thing get started?
Well, I don't know. It's just one of those things that got started. There was an interest shown that if we went after it, the boys would be interested in racing. So the first thing we did is to write all the owners and ask them if they'd be interested in racing if we put on a race, and they all said they would, so the thing was off for a start.
And that's all it took.
That was all it took.
Now you've got thousands and thousands of people watching this, and a beautiful day for the race. And tell me, did you think it was actually going to be this big when you started it?
Oh, I knew there was a lot of interest in hydroplane racing, but I didn't think there was as much as it developed to be.
I would imagine that you spend most of your time doing work on this and letting your own personal business go, haven't you?
Oh, I wouldn't say that. I've had some mighty fine committeemen working, and they've each had a job to do, and they've been doing it. It hasn't been as tough as it might look.
And this is, I think, a good way to segue into the gentleman on my left who's had an awful lot to do with a lot of the
He's
physical
done a
work around
terrific
it.
job, that fellow has.
Let's have you meet the man known as Deacon Cannon to his friends. Deke, you're here on race day, and things are ready and jumping, and we're set to go. Just how long did it take you to develop this pit area?
Well, we had it developed and redeveloped, so I've been working on it for about 3 weeks altogether.
How many men do you have working with you in the pit area?
Well, we've had about 4 or 5 most of the time working in here.
Any last-minute emergencies that you've had to take care of?
Yes, we had a lake problem that come up, took our pits out day before yesterday, and then one day we got it all back together and hope we kept everybody happy.
And now here we are on race day, and things are pretty copacetic out there.
It seems to be. Everybody seems to be in position and getting along very well, and hope that they get out there and really have a good race.
From here on in, it's strictly up to them. You've done all the work.
I've done all I can do. They can't run the race out in the course. That's their fault.
Thank you very much, Deke. That's a good way to put it. Thank you very much, gentlemen. You've been extremely kind to us here on KING as we come over here to originate this first annual Apple Cup. We've been talking a lot about the pit area. I think that Tom Dragon and Chuck Herring, I think what we better do, gentlemen, is separate and go our own ways and have the people around here get a chance to meet some of the owners, some of the drivers, some of the personalities attached to the boats, and get a pretty good idea of what we're going to have here in the way of a first annual Apple Cup.
The first thing I have to do is train both you fellas. I just heard Bill say you've been awful kind to those of us we're doing this show over KING TV. You've got to start adding KGW TV also.
Can't go wrong.
Can't go wrong. Channel 5 and Channel 8.
Right, that's right. All right, gentlemen, let's separate, go our different ways, and out of that, we will have a complete picture of the pit area here at the first annual Apple Cup at Lake Chelan. Okay, gentlemen?
You know, sometimes the big story or the story behind the story at these hydroplane races is not the boat that wins or comes in second or third. It's the boat that never even qualifies and tries so hard to do so. There have been favorites like this in the past. Sentimental favorites, they're called. I remember What Happened To. Of course, she did qualify. That was a number of years back. Last year we had Miss B&I from Tacoma. We had the Miss Skyway from Seattle, the belt-driven boat, which never even really got underway to qualify. But people were rooting for those boats just the same and hoping that something would happen. Now here's a brand new boat from Tacoma, which you see in the background and its crew, the Miss Rocket, owned by Mr. Austin Snell. This is Mr. Snell's first attempt at hydroplane racing. He's had bad luck this time, but his crew is completely undaunted. And as a matter of fact, last night, the Totem Yacht Club over in Tacoma, to show its appreciation for the Rocket crew's efforts, in spite of the fact they will not run, came over and quite a number of them and gave them a big blowout over here, for which I'm sure they're all appreciative. Let's talk to them one by one. First, Mr. Gordon Limburn, the crew chief. And Gordon, can you give us exactly what went wrong with this boat when it was out the other morning?
Well, we were running very good. We were just giving it a trial run, and we blew through a blade, and it just tore our whole under section out and put us out of the race. We can't fix it.
Impossible to get back in business like Miss Bardall, which apparently will make it, but their injuries were not as severe as what you had to fight
We'll
with.
be ready for the Gold Cup.
You're going to be ready for the Gold
You
Cup?
bet.
Well, I spent a lot of time talking to this crew yesterday, and they don't sound as though they're disheartened in any way, and they really are going after the Gold
We
Cup.
just know we're in a big league now, that's all.
That you are. Mr. Snell, unfortunately, is not here at the moment. I think he's uptown, and considering the traffic that we have uptown, it may be some time before he gets back. However, talking to him yesterday, I know that he was most appreciative of your efforts and was looking forward with that same spirit to doing something in the Gold Cup, and no two ways about it. And this boat is no fluke, and they intend to go right on.
We've got a good...
Now, can we identify some of the other members of the crew? This is Elmer Broadway. How was the shindig last night, Elmer?
Oh, it was swell.
Wonderful.
We had a good time.
You are from Tacoma, sir?
Mm-hmm.
How long have you been working on boats?
Oh, not very
hydroplane.
long. Not very
Kind of
long.
a newcomer?
Mm-hmm.
Most of the crew rather new at this?
Oh, we all
they
are.
worked on other boats?
Except, about 3 of us.
Mm-hmm.
They've been working for 5 or 6 years, and they lead us, and we tag along with them.
Elmer, it's nice to talk to you. And here, what is your name, sir?
Bob Larson, sir.
Bob Larson, another member of the Rocket crew. Are you also from Tacoma, Bob?
No, I'm from Seattle.
And how did you happen to get tied up with the Rocket endeavor?
Oh, I was down there the day that it was launched, and they needed a hand, and it was raining and very nasty, as we remember, Gordy, and so I gave him what help that I could with it, and I like the crew. The boat is a fabulous boat. It's
Are you sold on this boat?
Yeah, it's not a belt-driven boat by
No?
any means.
No.
And this boat here has really got it.
You think this one really has?
Well, I helped build Miss Bardall there, which was a good running boat, and this is just a stable. And the power plant that's in this boat is a tremendous engine. It really performs.
Fine. Well, we'll look forward to what it does in the Gold Cup. And next gentleman, your
Bob
name?
Lance.
Bob Lance.
Yeah.
What particular part of the maintenance do you take on, Bob?
Well, we're just giving them a hand right now and trying to get them started. They're new boys, and we've been in for quite a while.
You're an old hand at this,
I'm
huh?
afraid so.
Kind of gets into your blood and it won't go out.
I guess
right?
it does. You can say that again. But we've got a good boat here. We've got a good engine. If we can just keep her together now for a while. I think we're going to take them out here.
Fine, I hope you can. Our next crew member is Ike Webster. What do you think of this boat, Ike?
Well, I think I got more personal interest than anyone. I've been associated with Mr. Snell, having worked for him and in business with him now, you might say. And I'm behind the boat 100%. We think we have a real boat.
Wonderful. And Bill Twister, isn't it? That's right. Well, Bill, it's too bad that Rocket will not be running out here, but experience is something, isn't it?
Well, it certainly is, Chuck. We feel we have a real great boat. I mean, this boat is, I feel, can go all the way and pick up all the marbles. It was very disheartening to hear the news coming over yesterday afternoon, but there are other days and other races.
There certainly are.
We'll be there.
Wonderful. Well, if you can top that spirit, you're going some. So Miss Rocket, which will not even run in this Apple Cup, its crew looks forward to great things to come.
So I should get in? Sure.
Well, we're having a lot of fun this morning, and this is, I would imagine, the nucleus of the Shanty Maverick group, the two boats owned by Bill Wagner. But I think we should let you gentlemen stand by and be ladies first. Shanty, you want to come over here? Shanty is the original Shanty. There is a Shanty 1 behind us, but I guess really, truly, your Shanty 1. We have a little awkward situation here today, Russ and Bill Wagner, that we have a large number of people watching from Portland, Oregon, who don't know you folks too well, and of course others in Seattle and elsewhere who do. Shanty, how long have you been playing around with hydroplanes?
Well, it's a year now.
How many races have you attended? I know there's been a flock.
I believe it was 6 last year. This will be the 7th.
Which hydroplane race that you've been along on with all the boys and rooting for your boat, the Shanty, which one have you enjoyed the most?
Well, that would be hard to say. They've all been exciting.
That Seafair one was quite a race.
Yes,
though.
that was terrific.
Yeah,
Of course, our first one at Lake Tahoe, you never forget the first way up.
No, you won that one, didn't you?
Yes.
That's right. And, of course, the Seafair. Who do you think's going to, is this loaded? Who's going to win the Apple Cup, the first one?
Well, we're going to try to come in 1-2.
1-2. And as you'll learn during the afternoon, when Mrs. Wagner says 1-2, she means Shanty first and Maverick second. Would you agree with that? This is Bill Wagner, the owner of the boat.
I'll be just happy. It don't make any difference to me which way they come in.
You're going to be
Well,
objective.
they're together.
Yeah, you can be objective. Now, Bill Stead, who drives Maverick, won't be, and certainly the Colonel won't be, and Mrs. Wagner isn't. So which boat will do the best tomorrow, Bill?
Well, I hate to make any predictions on that. I think they're both in great shape, and I think that either one of them is liable to take it.
From what you've seen so far this week out here, Bill, which is the toughest competition on the water for your two boats?
Well, I would say the Hawaii Kai.
Hawaii Kai. What, have you done any modifications to the engines of either Shanty or Maverick?
No, these are basically the same engines we ran last year.
No changes from that.
That's just about like they were.
Okay, well, thanks, Bill. Shanty, maybe we can talk to the Colonel here,
Sure.
because he belongs to your boat.
Nice to meet you, Tom.
Colonel, how are you going to do tomorrow?
I hope very well.
I'm not going to have to get wet again, am I? This water's colder than Lake Washington.
I'd like it very much if you did have to.
For those of you who perhaps weren't present on that one, why, when Bill won the Seafair and Shanty won, I had the dubious honor of being thrown in with him. This is the watch. It held up. It lasted.
Good. I'm glad to hear it.
We were
Tom.
so worried we found out it was waterproof after all. All that screaming for nothing.
That was a lot of fun.
How does the boat feel this year?
Very good. This water's a little bit different than Seattle. If you notice, it's a little glassy, and instead of the little waves coming up in peaks, they sort of roll over, and it's very sticky. So your boat handles a little bit different than it does in Seattle water.
Now you, Colonel Russ Schley here hits a corner awful fast and awful hard. How does the stickiness do for you when you do that, Bill? How do you like your corners here?
Well, it's
I'm
Russ,
sorry,
that's
Russ,
all
I'm
right.
sorry. Too many Bills. Bill Stead, Bill Wagner, Bill O'Mara, and Russell Schley. Well, it's so early in the morning, Shanty. That's the thing.
I think you ought to ask Bill Stead that question. He looks like the real dark horse this year. As you know, he qualified considerably faster than I did, and I think he's the man that really ought to be asked these questions. As far as I'm concerned, though, it does make the boat handle a little bit differently, and you have to sort of set it up a little differently.
Well, along that line, I do want to ask you this, Russ.
How does this type of water affect you in terms of your cornering? Are you going to go in faster than normal or more slowly, or how are you going to adjust to it?
It strictly depends on the conditions of the day of the race.
But the way she looks right now, say.
Right now, it'll probably be a little different, probably a little tighter turns than you would when you have rough water.
Well, lots of luck.
Thank you very much.
I have to
Tom. It's
admit,
real
I
nice-
hope I get wet.
Oh, it's real nice seeing you again.
I feel you too.
Good.
Bill Stead, we've been talking about you, and I'll call you Russ a few times, and we'll get even.
Okay, thanks.
Bill drives the Maverick, and Maverick is, come on over in here too, Bill.
Oh, I'm all right.
Come on. Maverick has had some darn bad luck in a number of these races. Quill shafts or something going wrong and keeping the boat from competing just as well as she can or as well as Bill Stead can drive her. What kind of shape do you think Maverick is in for tomorrow?
I think, you mean for today?
Yeah,
You're
today.
still up pretty early, aren't
Still
you?
up. That's right. Still think it's Saturday.
I think we're in as good a shape as we've ever been in, and the boat is really running very fine.
How much speed can you get out of Maverick, Bill, on the straightaway?
Gee, I don't know. Or rather, I'd hate to say.
How fast have you gone at it?
Well, he made his own statement. Let him back it up.
It goes, though.
I think we'd be safe in saying that he's conceivably gone over 200 miles an hour, hasn't he?
Oh, I think that'd be
about that.
stretching a little, but it goes right along.
Maverick originally was designed as a straightaway boat, wasn't she?
Yes,
For a
I think-
straightaway run?
I think that Ted Jones originally built her for a mile straightaway, as far as I know, and I'm sure she's capable of it.
What did you qualify at? What was your speed, Bill?
112.3, I think it was, wasn't it, Bill? About there.
How do you like these corners?
Oh, they're all different at every course, and these are good ones. It's a very nice course, by the way. Very good.
You like the feel of the water?
Well, the water is a little sticky for us, but the course is very well laid out. The local committee has gone to a tremendous amount of work to make a very excellent course. They've bent over backwards to do just about anything they could to make this race successful. It's really wonderful being up here in the Apple Country.
Well, believe me, it's wonderful seeing you people again, and we can't violate another tradition. Shanty, I don't see her here, so we'll have to say hello to Jackie. Jackie is always someplace at school or on the island, and she is the Wagner's young daughter. So we'll see what happens today and wish this camp all the luck in the world.
The increasing interest in unlimited hydroplane racing is, I think, here on race day for the first annual Apple Cup here at the pit area at Lake Chelan, best expressed by the two gentlemen that I have with me. On my left, a gentleman who has bought a boat that has already been in the unlimited hydroplane war, and on my right, a man who is about to initiate to the unlimited hydroplane spectators a boat that is absolutely new in concept and design. Let's talk first of all with Stan Adams from down around that Kennewick area. Where are you from? Is that where you're from, Stan?
Yes, I am. I represent the Tri-Cities area.
I understand that you're pretty much interested in having a race over there sometime yourself.
Yes, we chartered a course last Sunday, and in conjunction with KEPR TV, and we hope to have unlimiteds in the Tri-Cities next year.
Well, I'll tell you right now, I can promise you that Channel 8 in Portland and Channel 5 in Seattle will be there in full force.
Well, thank you.
Stan, let's go back and talk now about Scooter 2. What sort of condition was she in when you picked her up from Edgar Kaiser's?
Well, it was in comparably good condition, Bill. It's the afterplane. It was a slight hole in the afterplane, and we've got that fixed, and we've gotten the one weak spot that they've had trouble with it. Well, along with the crew that I have now, Scott Kelly of the ex-Slow-Mo crew, and a couple of General Electric engineers, we've taken care of that part of the problem.
What about your crew? Who do you have working with you in the organization?
Well, there's John Osley, who's my partner, and Scott Kelly, and Jack Poe, and Mr. Doolin, and a few of
They
the
all
other fellows.
businessmen right in that area?
Well, these two fellows that I've mentioned, they're engineers for GE.
What is your own particular work?
Well, I'm in the public relations and publicity.
Well, then, we'll get along real
Sales,
good.
sales supervision. Okay.
Stan, taking a look at the trials and tribulations of some of these drivers, and some that did make it and some that didn't, and the work that they had to go through to get actually on the water, do you think you might back off a little bit from this thing now, or has it changed your mind about something?
No, not at all. No, I'm more enthusiastic than ever. I appreciate the help that I got here. I'm a newcomer to this business, and I've talked to Ted Jones and to Jack Regis, and they're all helping me.
Everybody
like
give a lot
that.
of help here in the pit.
Yes.
So when they get on the course with you,
Yes, very much competition. Yes.
And one
Amazing.
final question, if you will. I don't know whether you've done this, and have you given any idea of who's going to be your driver?
No, we have 3 men picked out that we'll test them about 3 or 4 weeks from now.
Now, do you hope to get the boat in the Gold Cup, or will that be your first appearance, or are you going to try earlier at Tahoe?
No, we're going to Tahoe.
Good.
Yes, we'll be ready for Tahoe.
Good, fine,
Yeah.
wonderful. Stan,
Nice-
thanks very much for
nice
being part of the
to talk.
world. It's going to be real great to have you. Stan Adams. Now let's talk to Armand Swenson. Armand, you have a thing called Miss University District. It's a group that sponsors you. It's a boat that is new in concept. It's unlimited night. Well, look, I'm going to turn the microphone over to you. You explain your design and what it is you hope to arrive at with it.
Well, the main thing I'm trying to get over is safety
Mhm.
in hydroplanes,
And
as
still
well
get
as
some
speed, yes. I have a design that has, I feel, tremendous inherent stability.
Mm-hmm.
I have a boat that pulls with the propellers 2/3 of the boat and pushes 1/3 of the boat. Propellers in the forward third. I have a horizontal stabilizer as well as a vertical stabilizer as an airplane, and my center of gravity is way forward. It has a tendency to maintain stability in rough water that is over and above the conventional three-pointers, what I found from the models.
Is there anything on the water today that it could resemble, or something that people could think in their own mind as being compared to?
Well, the closest would be a flying boat hull with a very low center of gravity, with lifting surfaces and horizontal and vertical tail.
How much will your boat weigh with engine?
Well, it's a real light boat. It'll only weigh 1,250 pounds, I anticipate. But I don't have the power that Adams has. 24 cylinders he has. And
Oh, now what are you gonna use?
4,000. I'm going to start out with only 450 to 500 horsepower.
Mm-hmm.
But I want 1,050 horsepower gas turbine.
Ooh.
And with that, I'm sure I can break the record for speed and
Still
on
be
the
safe.
course, yes. And on the course, I think I can get around the turns much faster. I can make a bank turn, incidentally. That's what the three-pointers can't do.
That's true.
And
When do you think you'll have her in the water?
I want to try to get the boat in the water the end of June or the last 2 weeks in.
Do you think you might have her ready for Tahoe?
That's what I plan. I want to get her in at July the 21st at Lake Tahoe.
And then,
That's the
then get her set for the Gold Cup in
Yeah,
August.
I'll
10th.
find out a lot at Lake Tahoe. It's high altitude, and I'll see if my lightweight and fuel injection will really pay off up there.
Armand, do you have a driver picked?
Yes, I have Dell Fanning, the West Coast big car champion, is real enthused about driving it. I want to test it and drive it myself.
Have you ever run a scale model of this boat that you're
Oh, yes.
interested in?
Hundreds of runs, yes. I have 2 models of it.
You haven't found any flaws, at least in the scale model?
Well, I've been running the models with only one propeller, which is a terrific handicap. I'm running 2 propellers on the real boat, both turning in opposite directions, like a torpedo.
Mm-hmm.
The torpedo will not operate underwater with one propeller. The hull itself of the torpedo will rotate from torque. But with the 2 propellers, you eliminate all torque, and in the big boat, I will eliminate torque as well as prop crawl, which are, I feel, big boogaboos in racing.
What will you have to do in order to get that boat up on the plane or up on a step, or is that necessary in your design?
Yes, this boat with the propellers up forward and a shaft angle a little higher than a conventional boat, the down thrust of the propellers helps to push the boat up and out of the water, the forward third where the center of gravity is, and once she gets her speed up to around 150 miles an hour, the boat will become completely free. The combination of the propeller thrust upwards as well as the lift on the lifting surfaces, which can be varied at the dock. You can't vary any surfaces underway. When you once trim your surfaces or cut down your area or increase your area, reduce or increase your angle of attack, you can get your setting at the speed you want to run and the water conditions, and that's the principle of it.
Well, Armand, it sounds real great to me. Now all it'll be up to you to do is to get out here and try to prove it, and just think you can join all of these gentlemen in all the trials and tribulations that they've enjoyed over the months.
That's right.
Thank you very much, Armand. The best
Thank
of
you.
luck to you and Miss University.
Thank you.
You bet. Incidentally, speaking of publicity, as Armand was a moment ago, we noticed Dr. Woods, who is head of the publicity campaign, in fact, has charge of all publicity for the first annual Apple Cup, and we'll be talking with him in just a moment.
Hello, Doc. How are you?
Hi, Bill.
I almost
Glad to
lost
see
you
you.
here for a while.
Oh,
Doctor,
people.
let me ask you, you're a doctor. What field of medicine are you in?
Well, I'm an optometrist, Bill. That's dealing with eye care and vision.
No, you got eye care and vision out here taking a look at this wonderful lake on race day. Tell me, did you envision the first annual Apple Cup as being as big and tremendous as it is?
Well, frankly, we were considering 4 boats and film. Now we have live television and 8 or 9 boats going.
Well, I just want to tell you right now that I visited a lot of places that have had an opportunity to put a race on for the first time. And, brother, you were way above average. Believe me.
We're having a lot of fun. We have just one object in mind, Bill, and that is to try and please everybody and run it as efficiently as possible.
You've done a wonderful job. Believe me,
Well,
Doctor.
thank
I
you
say
very
that
much,
most
Bill.
sincerely. Doctor, what about your publicity setup that you have now? Do you handle that thing entirely yourself, or do you have other members on the committee working with
Well,
you?
to be honest about it, I've done it all myself.
Well, then you have done a particularly outstanding job. As things grow, and it undoubtedly will grow because you have a lake here that is meant for this type of racing, I think that you'll find you'll have to add to your staff.
I'm afraid I will, but I enjoy it. I've had a lot of fun. And right now, talking with the press, meeting them, I found out that we've got them located and they're all happy, and we hope that we can keep them happy.
And here on this particular day, on race day, as a publicity chairman, the event is on. From here on in, it's up to them to provide you with a show.
That's right. I'm coasting from here on in.
Thank you, Doctor. It's been a real pleasure having you around, and thank you very much for
Joe.
stopping with us here in the pit area.
We talked to one crew a while ago, the crew of Miss Rocket. That boat will not run at all, and right behind us here is a boat which apparently now will run in the race, but even after qualifying, there was some doubt that it would make it, and that is Miss Bardall. But now, Norm Christensen, you have been successful in getting another engine, is that right?
Yeah, we were able to pick up an engine over in Seattle there, and we're building it up there. We had to add a few of the accessories, and it's all set to run.
Are you hopeful that you'll be on the water for this Apple Cup?
Oh, yes.
Now, the other Norm here, Norm Evans, the only man in this race is a real hometown boy from Chelan. As a matter of fact, owns property just a couple hundred yards down the beach here, isn't it,
Something like
Norm?
that, pretty close.
The driver of Miss Bardall. And last year you were taking your turns with Miss Seattle, as I recall. Is that right?
Yes, indeed.
Now you're with the Bardall crew, formerly the Tempest. Tell us about this damage that occurred to the boat and how it happened, Norm.
Well, it didn't mount to too much. We just got a little low on the oil pressure, I guess. But as far as the boat, it handles beautiful. I'm well pleased. It's terrific on the corners, and I'm sure it'll be a good boat for this course, being a little narrow, that we had to push the course down this end of the lake and only have it 1,200 feet wide. So, but I'm very pleased with the boat. It's terrific acceleration. It's a little lighter, and
You burned out the engine on your qualifying effort?
well, we were really testing, yes, and they went ahead and took the time as qualifying time, but maybe it's a good thing and we won't have to qualify again because the time is getting short.
What did you qualify at? Well,
About 97, I guess.
Well,
106, 104, and I think 84 the last one. So that,
you decided to keep on going and nurse her on around for that last lap.
yeah, so.
You fellas sit with a stopwatch out there when you're taking these time trials? And go pretty much by that?
No, I didn't out there because we were more or less just testing the boat out, and we kept the time from the official barge on it.
You, of course, you get a sort of sixth sense about timing, don't you, after you've driven
Yes,
these boats?
I believe you can time yourself pretty good, or tell fairly close, you know, how fast you are going, and time yourself in the corners. And
Well, there's no point in getting in much over 95, that's for sure.
no, as long as with the new ruling this year, as long as all you have to do is qualify over 95 and you can't bump them, well, there's no use of burning your motor up, or
That's right.
might as well save it for the race.
I've noticed, Norm, that like Hawaii Kai over here, which went out the first day, let's see, that was Monday or Tuesday, and qualified at and still the top speed. And I don't think that boat's been out since, has it? It's sat there all the time.
Well, she might have been out shortly after. I didn't come over till Thursday, but it seems to be a very capable boat, and they have a lot of speed there.
They certainly do. Would you say they're a boat to watch in this Apple
I would certainly say so.
Without too much doubt, huh?
I also want to say, Chuck, there at this time that I want to thank Jim Osmond, there, the Miss Seattle group, for allowing us there to have their engine there, so we were able to continue.
Wonderful. an awful lot of fierce competition out here in the turns and whatnot, but when it comes to giving a fellow a lift, there's an awful lot of cooperation, isn't there?
That's right. All the crews that help each other when they're in a bind.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Norm Christensen and Norm Evans, and good luck to you in this running of the Apple Cup. Thank you. Thanks, Jack.
Well, with Miss Wahoo just terminating her snorting and sniffing in the background, let's talk to members of a very fine crew who represent a tremendous boat. And according to Bill Wagoner, he says that you guys are the chief competition here today in the Apple Cup. We're speaking about Hawaii Kai, owned by Edgar Kaiser. Now, as I understand it, let's bring all our friends viewing, there are a great many of them today, up to date. Now, what is the situation in terms of you fellows being sort of combination owners, crew, drivers, and what have you with the Hawaii Kai for this race, Mike? This is Mike Welch.
Basically, the boat's been turned over to the slow-mo crew, which involves 9 men, and all I've been set up to do is to head up the group as a crew chief, but the crew runs the operation. It isn't one man.
And Edgar Kaiser will not be present then for the...
He will not be here for this race.
What do you think the chances are for Hawaii Kai here today in the Apple Cup?
Well, it's like any other race. If we can stay together, we'll be out there running and giving them a bad time.
Mike, you have a notable history, and Mike's a very well-known figure in hydroplane racing. In terms of the esprit de corps that existed with the slow-mo crew, what kind of esprit de corps do we have here with the Hawaii Kai Fighters race?
As far as I'm concerned, it's no different. The boat is running real good, and I mean, to a typical example of slow-mo 4, I think she'd compare very well.
What did you qualify at?
We qualified at 113.
Jack is driving.
Jack Regis is driving.
And that's a pretty good speed.
That's pretty good, Bill. I mean,
is that the top qualifying that's been done here so far?
That's right.
Well, you can expect to see a lot from Hawaii Kai. She's always performed well and is a very, very powerful craft. She's underneath her awning over to our right. And of course, this is not color at this moment, but I'm going to ask you fellas, what colors are these?
Well, tropical rose and some kind of a pink.
Well, Skeesler gave you what his idea is to the colors. I've heard puce and violet and pink, but it's very beautiful.
Pink thing.
Yeah, pink thing. Okay, Mike. Let's talk to Elmer Ellenschmidt just for a moment. How do you think the boat's doing?
Well, the boat is running very well, Tom. With a little bit of luck and a lot of prayers, well, we hope to be in there at the last heat.
In the Gold Cup, as you'll recall last year in Detroit, Hawaii Kai went like a bomb when she was going, but was having trouble keeping going. Now, what was the trouble?
Well, Tom, I wasn't at the Gold Cup last year, so one of the other fellows would probably be able to give you a better story on that.
Mike?
He was just having engine trouble.
In any particular location, carburation, or where?
Well, basically carburation in the lower section.
But that trouble hasn't manifested itself here in your time trials on Lake Chelan.
Well, we're using a different engine. They had an Allison in Detroit.
And what are you running?
We're running a Merlin.
How many horse will she generate?
Oh, a little better than 2,000.
Any kind of a special fuel mixture you're using?
We have this special fuel that we used with the slow-mos.
And I take it you're not going to divulge what that special fuel is?
I don't know.
For those who are perhaps uninitiated in this business of the fuel for hydroplanes, and I certainly don't purport to be an expert, but some of the boats you'll see operating will use straight aviation gasoline. Others will use a fuel mixture. I think I'm safe in saying, and Mike or Elmer or Fred or Wes will contradict me if I'm wrong, but these mixtures have been compounded of such things as water vapor, alcohol, methane, and an item called hydroglycerin. Nitroglycerin, I should say, for hydroplanes. And it's possible that all of those could be in this mixture, isn't it?
I can tell you this much, we're not using any one of those that you mentioned.
Well. But you'll have to admit that they've been used.
Yeah, it took us 3 years, Tom, to develop this fuel, so we're a little bit tight on it.
Well, I don't blame you. Of course, this mixture which I mentioned, which includes the nitroglycerin, is blown quill shafts right out of engines, too. I'll never forget the qualifying for the Seafair, where everybody was experimenting with these hot fuels, and it looked as if the day before the race there weren't going to be any boats. There might have been some boats, but there weren't going to be any engines, because it was just a little bit too hot. I was noticing here a while ago when Mario Slovak was taking Miss Wahoo out, and he was having a little trouble getting started. I don't think he had his mags turned on, and there was about 4 feet of flame coming out of the right exhaust on that engine, so that fuel is hot no matter what the mixture is, or even if it's straight high-octane aviation gasoline. Fred Herring, what is your job with Hawaii Kai?
I mainly work on the gearboxes. I work for Western Gear for my occupation, and on my sideline activity, it's the gearboxes on Hawaii Kai.
We might point out, as I say, we have a little unusual situation here today, fellows, in terms of the fact that some of our viewers are very familiar with hydroplanes, and others are relative neophytes in terms of unlimited hydroplanes and what's involved in their operation. So for some people, we'll be rehashing material, and for some others, bringing some new material to view. The gearbox, actually, I suppose, could be pinpointed as the one single thing that has made these unlimited hydroplanes and their tremendous speed possible. Isn't that right?
That's right. We have an engine speed of somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000, and we have to step that speed up approximately 3 to 1 for the proper propeller speed to get the boat around the water as fast as it goes.
Fred, if you're doing 3,000 RPM, how fast around is that wheel, or I should say propeller? How fast is the propeller going around?
A little over 9,000 revolutions a minute.
9,000 revolutions a minute. Has anybody broken that down to a revolution per second?
No, I've never done that.
But it gives you some idea of the speed of the wheel when it's turning and when the boat is going at approximately maximum speed, and it accounts for the tremendous rooster tail which you see following these unlimited hydroplanes. No trouble with the gearbox, I take it?
No trouble at all yet.
Hawaii Kai never has had any trouble, has she, with her gearbox?
Not that I know of now.
No, I don't think so either, Mike, as I recall. In fact, that was the early bugaboo, and I haven't heard too much of quill shafts last year, lots of them, but not
this
too.
Year too.
But not too much trouble with the gearbox. But when you imagine the propeller approximately that large, going around 9,000 times per minute, you get some idea of the tremendous force and power. Right, Wes Kiesling, what's your job?
I'm mainly taking care of the engines, overhauling, rebuilding, seeing that they're properly tuned up to run in this race.
All right, Wes, now let's also, because even for some of us who have followed hydroplanes a long time, we've mentioned quill shaft here. What is a quill shaft?
Well, it's this shaft that connects into the engine and drives the blower.
Connected to the supercharger, isn't
Right.
it? And when it goes, of course, you get a tremendous decrease in...
You lose your supercharger, and therefore you lose your power.
And we said, Mike, I believe you said that the horsepower of Hawaii Kai was about 2,000?
Around there.
How is the engine performing a year? Could you get more out of it, or is it satisfactory?
Well, possibly in a year or two we could get more out of it by doing a little doctoring, but so far we're happy to stay with standard.
Well, then you have to know what's in that fuel, don't you, before you start moving around with that supercharger. We'll build a mystery here yet, fellas, before we're through. Mike, oh, I tell you, Phil, if this is perhaps your first or second encounter with hydroplanes, there's no sport in the world like it. Mike, this is the first time that Hawaii Kai has used this special fuel, isn't it?
No, it used it in Washington, D.C. last year, Lake Mead. When they took our engine over at Washington, D.C., they used our fuel. They used it at Mead, and she's used it this year.
Well, obviously it's working well, and the boat's performing well. As I said earlier, that Bill Wagner, of course, who owns Shanty One and Maverick, is he actually feels that for the race today, for the Apple Cup, that Hawaii Kai is the real competition. So we wish you fellows all the luck in the world, and we'd like to say a welcome to Edgar Kaiser. If he's watching in, he's a wonderful fellow, as I'm sure all of you guys will agree, and we wish him a lot of luck, too. Is Jack around anywhere, or is he resting?
I think he's up here on the boardwalk someplace. You want us to run him down for you?
Well, maybe we can talk to him a little bit later in the day. I'd like to have you meet Jack Regas, who's a fellow that drives Hawaii Kai, and an interesting fellow to meet, too. Well, gentlemen, thanks very much. Elmer, Mike, Fred, Wes, thanks a lot, and good luck to the Hawaii Kai. We'll see you, Elmer. Mike, bye-bye. Yes.
That is, 113 is a record on a 3-mile course.
Very good, that's right. It is. Thanks a lot. Okay, bye-bye. That's the story about the Hawaii Kai. We're just taking your name in vain, Jack, and talking to the boys on the crew and talking about this fact that you had broken the record for a 3-mile course for qualifying at 113. I take it that the boat feels good to you.
Very good.
Have you had any trouble like you had at the Gold Cup, Jack, with the engine keeping going?
No, we've changed engines since then.
That's what
Real
Mike was
terrific
saying.
engine.
And the boat, how does she perform in the corners?
Very well. She turns just as tight as I want to make them.
Oh, good. These, how do you like the water? This more placid water.
It's just too smooth.
Too smooth?
You just can't get your speed up.
Might point out, as I've mentioned before here today, Jack, the number of our viewers are not as familiar with hydroplanes as some of the others, and you might point out why you like a little chop on the water rather than having it flat.
Well, I really like a real good chop, a heavy chop that will give me the advantage on the rest of these boats because I'm so much heavier than they are and I can ride the rough water a lot better than the rest of them. But what you're referring to is a chop frees your sponsons. You know, lets air get under there and it makes your boat ride freer.
Well, actually, you like to get airborne, and that's what we're talking about.
Oh, yeah, I just want to hit every third one if I can.
Jack has an interesting background as a driver that I think even some of the aficionados, as we can refer to those people who have been following hydroplanes for a long time, might not be familiar. How did you start in this business of racing hydroplanes, Jack?
Well, it was just an accident that I got into it. I worked for Mr. Kaiser, and he had a boat that needed repaired, and he sent a couple of us boys up to work on it, and I got to driving it, and first thing you know, I fell into one thing and then another, and ended up with this one, and it's a real good boat.
Jack, had you driven limited class hydroplanes?
No, I've never driven a boat before.
Well, that's what I wanted you to come out and say, because I think it's particularly interesting. Jack is a very fine driver. Those of us who have watched him for, well, ever since he started racing, and watched him in some extremely tough competition with the finest unlimited hydroplane drivers in the world, can tell you that Jack can certainly handle his own against any of them on the corners, or racing for the start, or getting out of a box, or getting out of a funnel, too, that they can put on you in some of these straightaways. So I think it's particularly interesting to note that here's a man who handles unlimited hydroplanes with consummate skill, but has never driven the little ones. Now, is that correct, or have you started to drive little ones now?
Well, I drove a couple little ones since, not in competition, just to try them out and see what it felt like to ride them. But in this business, you learn something every time you take a boat out. Every time you drive a boat, you learn something new. I guess you just keep on learning, too.
Well, Jack's got that backward kind of a career. It's sort of like fighting for the heavyweight championship the first time in the ring and then starting to go for preliminaries. How do you think you're going to do tomorrow?
I'm going to try and win.
And everything being equal, I kind of think that you think you will.
Yes, I really do. I think we got a real good chance of, if everything goes right and we have our certain amount of % of luck, which you always have to have.
I keep saying tomorrow and referring to Sunday because of my late arrival up here. Of course, what we're talking about is the Apple Cup, which will be taking place here pretty shortly. Well, Jack Regas, thanks so much for talking to us. You betcha. Bye-bye.
Of all the hydroplanes which will be running here in the Apple Cup, probably none is easier to spot from a distance than this one in the background, Miss Seattle, because of that familiar checkerboard tail. It really shines up. And Miss Seattle, as you know, is the former Slow Motion 5, which probably has more history behind it than any boat in this race. It is the boat which very nearly killed Lou Fagel in 1955 in the tryouts, the qualifying run for the Gold Cup in Seattle. It was then taken over by Rooster Tails Incorporated. And right now we're going to talk to one of the crew members, Del Misbeck. Are you actually an official member of Rooster Tails, Del?
Yes, I am.
One of the group? All the crew members of Rooster Tails?
Yes, they are. Every one of them has been brought in as a member of Rooster Tails.
Jim Osland, who started the head rooster, isn't he?
Yes, he's the head rooster. He's the one that pushes us and keeps us going all the time with his whip. Everything is going real swell. He's done a real good job, Jim has.
There are two drivers. You have a choice of two, Chuck Hickling and Al Benson, neither of whom happens to be here right at the moment. But this cooperative effort of Rooster Tails is intriguing, and especially in view of the fact we have people watching this in Portland over KGW-TV who probably, many of them, have never seen a hydroplane race. Tell us about how Rooster Tails got started and just what Rooster Tails is. Now, I've explained the background. Slow Motion 5 flipped. It was owned by the late Stanley Sayers. It looked as though the boat was sort of a lost cause. And then along came Rooster Tails.
Yeah.
And tell us what happened from then on.
Well, Rooster Tails is a bunch of businessmen. Well, I think there's 8 businessmen in Seattle that when they all got together and wanted to get started in this, and so they was able to purchase the boat from Stan. And they got a hold of Burns Smith, which has done wonderfully well as far as rebuilding the boat. And
it looked as though it would never run again.
It was really a wreck, and they got it back together, and they've the Rooster Tails fellows that are behind us. They've all done a swell job of getting us parts and keeping us going.
Well, now this has cost all of you a considerable amount of money, I would take it.
Well,
with a boat like this operating.
Yes, it does. It's surprisingly, the average person can't believe how much money it takes to keep one of these going.
That's right.
And then the owners put out a lot of money. The crew put out considerable amount of money of their own, and time mainly. We kept track last year on the Seafair, and it was well up in the thousands of hours it took us to get the boat ready. And it's the same way now. I mean,
how many are there in the crew?
I believe there's 6 of us, 5 or 6 of us that are on the crew. You can't keep track of them all, but...
Well, Del, can you tell me what it is that possesses a fella who is of normal and sound mind and body to get wrapped up into this business?
Well, I don't think he's in sound mind and body when he gets wrapped up in it. Golly, you know, there's fellows that we've had on the crew that wanted to put in their full time and everything, and when you come right down to it, they can't do it. We work, we have our own jobs that we work on in the daytime, and then right after that, we go out and work on the boat, and we don't get off the thing until 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and we go home and sleep and get up and go to our own jobs and start all over again. And it's just
what do the Rooster Tails wives think of this endeavor?
Well, you know, it's they're not very happy with it. Deeper, some of the fellows' wives have either said it's either the boat or the family.
Which is it?
Yeah, what are you going to take? So it gets pretty bad sometimes. Golly.
Well, it's something that really gets into the blood, and especially for the benefit of our Spokane audience and our more particularly our Portland audience, who have not been exposed to hydroplane races other than, I think, KING's coverage of the Gold Cup last year, which went coast to coast over ABC. Other than that, Portland people have not seen these boats run too much. And I think they're going to find that same blood flowing through their veins before the day is up.
It's beginning to take a hold. Boy, it's surprisingly how many people here in the last... you might say the last 2 or 3 years have really caught on. To start out with, there wasn't too much interest at Jeepers. Last year, it was tremendous. And this year, I think it's going to be better yet.
The crowd that is here at the little town of Chelan is real proof of that.
Yeah, that is right. Very much so.
Thank you very much, Del, Miss Beck, and we'll be rooting for Miss Seattle along with all the others.
Yeah, it's been good talking to you, Chuck, and
Thanks
we'll see you around.
Word Rhodes, you're the owner of Miss Thriftway and the boat Thriftway 2. As you look on this, your 3rd season in unlimited hydroplane racing, where do you think the real answer to the success or failure of anybody's boat, your own included, for this next season in 1957?
Well, I've contended time and again, Bill, that the races are won and lost in the pits with the crews. Doesn't make any difference what kind of a driver you got. If the right kind of a boat isn't under him, well, he's not going very far.
So maybe we should find out what it is that makes Miss Thriftway go, go, go.
That's a very good idea, and we have two wonderful crews. And I'd like for you to talk to them, Bill.
Thank you very much, Willard. You'll just step out of the way now. We'll ask the man who's the crew chief of this organization for Miss Thriftway to step in.
Hello, Bill.
All right. What about your particular background? How long have you been connected with Unlimited Hydroplane?
Well, Unlimited's, Bill, I've been in about 4 years, but I've been with Unlimited's for about 17, 18 years.
Do any driving?
I used to, yes.
Now, what is your particular job and responsibility with Miss Thriftway?
Well, I'm the crew chief on Miss Thriftway and try and line out the work to keep the boys busy.
How many boys do you have under you?
8.
Actually, not under you, are they? You all work together?
We all work together, yeah, that's right.
And then you have frequent consultations with Mr. Rhodes?
Mr. Rhodes and Ted.
All right. Thanks an awful lot. Let me meet some of your other boys individually, and the best of luck to you and Miss Thriftway. You've done an excellent job preparing her. I think an old familiar friend of yours and mine, Maury Lang. Maury, how long have you been around this Unlimited Hydroplane game?
This is my 5th season, Bill.
And
I started with Ted Jones, and on the slow-mo crew is on slow-mo 4. And I started with Thriftway when I first got here. This is my 3rd season with Thriftway, and it's a wonderful boat and a wonderful
veteran
crew.
Maury Lang. All right, what do you do now when you aren't busy with Unlimited Hydroplane?
I'm foreman at the Experimental Flight Center at Boeing.
Find that the two jobs correlate pretty well?
It keeps me busy.
What's your particular assignment with this boat?
Anything that has to be done.
Good. Wonderful. Thanks an awful lot, Maury.
Okay, Bill.
Maury Lang. Now, next we have a gentleman fairly new to this crew, I believe. What is your name?
Bill Fyander.
Okay, go ahead. Take it. That's all right. We're very informal out here in the press. What do you do, Bill?
That's my daughter. I've been working mostly on the engines, Bill.
And do you do that type of work when you're away from the boat?
I'm a sales engineer for Texaco.
How did you happen to get joined up here with
I started the same year the Thriftway started, the first year.
Did you get a fascination for these boats and then say, I want to join the crew?
Yeah, I came down and started working on her when she was out at Sand Point.
Well, what about your wife and daughter now? It looks to me like they haven't seen you for quite a while.
Yeah, that's very true. That's
do you like
a hazard.
Is it exciting for you?
Oh, yeah, it's a great game.
You get a great amount of satisfaction the boats on the water performing well?
Certainly.
You think you personally have a partner?
I'll get sick when it gets sick.
That's the way. Thank you very much. It's been a real pleasure meeting you.
Thank you.
Let's talk to another gentleman here. This man's real big. Your name?
Lawrence Onsager.
And how long have you been with this organization?
I've been with the company itself for about 11 years.
In other words, you work for Associated?
Yes.
What do you do?
Mechanic in the shop.
You go up and ask Mr. Rhodes if you could be a part of this organization when they came along and got in the
No,
field?
we were in tight squeeze last year for engines. They got in on the engine work and stayed with it.
Thanks very much, guys. Best of luck to you. All right, come on in here, Ray. Maury.
Bill?
What do you do with the Thriftway crew?
Oh, everything. Or anything.
How long have you been with them?
Just this year.
Don't back off from me, boy.
Huh?
Don't back off from me. We got to
I'm
get
not.
you. All right, fine. Ray, how much time do you average you spend on working with the Thriftway crew? Go ahead, take it off.
Oh, about 12 hours a day.
Now, do you find that a certain amount of tension as race day approaches in the pits that you yourself are involved in that tension?
You can't help it.
And what about the boat as you look at it out there? Is it something personal that you have in the boat that...
Sure is.
Can you describe the feeling that a man has when he's out when the boat is out there?
It's hard to describe. I don't believe I can do that.
I can see it in your eyes. Thanks an awful lot, Ray. It's been a real pleasure talking with you. All right, here we are. Your name?
Bill Eldred.
Oh, Bill? What about Miss Thriftway? How long have you been connected with her?
Well, this is my first year, Bill.
What do you do when you're away from the boat?
I work at Boeing on the flight line, experimental flight line.
And do you spend just as many hours as you have to on this without any degree of strain or pain?
Well, sometimes it's a little rough to get in enough hours on this and be able to make it to work also.
Do you feel a certain amount of tension when your boat gets out there on the line and you're ready to go?
Yes, I think so. I think most everyone does that's connected with the boats. It's a pretty personal thing, you know, to see your boat out there and wanting everything to go right with it.
I want to ask you one final quick prediction. Is there any thought in your mind that any other boat could win but Miss Thriftway?
Not a bit.
That's an optimistic note we want to end up on as far as this camp is concerned. With Miss Thriftway, you've met the entire crew. Oh, what do we got? Stan answers here. Stan?
That's me.
How long have you been with the boat?
Well, this is my second year, really. I've worked on it,
What do you do?
3 years. Oh, anything, everything.
Now, just might be around the boat, eh?
That's right.
What do you do when you aren't with that, with the boat?
Oh, I work for Associated Grocers.
What do you do?
Truck mechanic.
All right, good enough. I think we just about run out of time. Thanks an awful lot, Stan. You've had an opportunity of meeting some of the crew that is behind the organizational work that goes into the success or failure of a boat known as Miss Thriftway. Perhaps we have very briefly given you an indication of what it's like to be a part of this crew. So we've just completed a tour of the pit area here at Lake Chelan for the running of the first annual Apple Cup. And speaking of that, we'll be back with you in just a moment with the on-the-spot live coverage of the first annual Apple Cup here at Lake Chelan. Thanks, everyone.